Do you have a plan to do another tour? Because, I mean, people love seeing you live and you're good at it.
Well, I am. Quite enjoy it. An hour is enough for me to do, and I've got probably a bit of a complex about getting enough new stuff, because I know one of the glorious virtues of the new generation, like Harry Hill, or I don't mean he's that new, but I mean young compared to me, and even Divine Victoria Wood. I mean, have a new hour each year they go out. How do they find it, you know? And I said, well, I couldn't go out again and do the same stuff. I'd be frightening people. I said, people won't remember, and the same people won't come to see you either, but I hang on to stuff and don't change it as much, because it's very difficult to find, of course. I mean, I have, and as you have new material, of course, or you do new material, you don't do it with the same vigor and attack as you do the old stuff, because you're not so sure of it. It's a bit like with the dog growling at you, they do everything, I'll do this gently until you need confidence, really.
Do you still enjoy doing the live stuff?
Yes, I do. I really quite like doing corporates. That's about I enjoy a half hour or 35 minutes. When it gets over an hour, I get bored of myself. Never mind.
Were you a funny child?
I would think probably quaint rather than funny. I don't know. I know I wasn't. Although I'm short, I never had to use comedy as a defense mechanism at school, because I wasn't bullied or anything. So there must have been a sort of air about me, or an aura about me, that protected me from possible bullying. People must have thought, well, he's got enough to say for himself, and I think he can stand his own ground too. But I don't remember being funny. But I was, of course, when I first performed in the church youth club at the age of 15, now 16, I was obviously funny. And that was the turning point of my life, because I realised I hadn't known what to do, and then I suddenly found this facility, which was rare, because I hadn't found in any part of my life a facility that I found at that time on the stage, a comfort zone I was in, and I thought, this is a little message, a little sign I'm getting here, and I grabbed hold of it and followed it relentlessly from then onwards, really. So that was a blessing.
Once you've had a laugh on stage, can you ever go back and be a serious actor, do you think?
Well, it's very, very, what is the word I'm looking for? It's very, very addictive, yes. Yes, you would have a job playing a straight role, you will always be looking for a little gap where you can get a laugh, really. So it is, yes, a very addictive thing to be able to do, really.
Professionally speaking, when was the turning point? Was it when you did the Frost programme and you met Ronnie Barker?
Yes, the Frost Report, definitely, yes. David Frost changed my life, really. I thought my life was going to change before that, because one afternoon I had this phone call from Joan Littlewood, of all people, saying, I'm doing a musical which has been written by Lionel Bart. It's going to be designed by Oliver Messel. It's going to be choreographed by Paddy Stone, and it's about Robin Hood, and I'd love you to be in it, playing Will Scarlett. And I thought, well, my goodness me, that is a turnaround. And of course it was really turned out to be one of the biggest disasters of all time, called Twang. And but just round the corner from that offer, David Frost rang me up and said, I'm about to do a show called The Frost Report, and I have to tell you that if Twang runs, you won't be able to do it, but if it comes off like it looks it might. And Twang came off, and I did The Frost Report, and from that moment on, my life changed. So David Frost really was the major turning point, yeah.
That programme really did create so many careers, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Well, David, really I don't think David gets enough of the credit for the number of people he sort of found or fostered, because he was quite a brave entrepreneur, David. He was the first of performers who started their own production companies, and he encouraged and promoted John Cleese and all Python Boys and Marty Feldman and, as I say, all Python, who all wrote and performed and wrote up a lot of the Frost Report material and a lot of the material we did subsequently. And So a clutch of about 12 people David used to sort of sponsor a writer. I mean, he realised the importance of good writing. So
how do you know in your career when you're on the right path and you've actually got some talent and you might make it? How do you know that you're not just following a dream like you see so many of these kids on X Factor who really can't sing?
Yes. Well, of course, the thing about Ron and I is, as Danny said the other day at the lunch down in the room, that we, and he certainly, well, like Ken Dodd, we're talking about theatrical people. We were theatre trained in the theatre with all the skills of being heard and standing still when you're supposed to stand still and not sitting down, and the costumes and all the rules. You're being in half an hour before, and 35 minutes in fact, because the half an hour is peculiarly not a half hour, it's actually 35 minutes, and all these little rules that you lived by because you were theatre trained. And so we weren't Tuppenny Haley folk who sang in a pub and then went on these ephemeral celebrity careers. I mean, they're just so different, you see.
The whole business has changed since your day, hasn't it, in a way? You would never have dreamed of going to the BBC and saying, I haven't got any talent, I don't have an act, I don't have a show, but will you give me a job? I mean, people really do that now, don't they?
I know they don't. They go along and are bravely auditioned, and they don't seem to realise that half the time, too, the sadness is that half the time the acts that you see who are most tragically pathetic are being used for that reason. They're not really showing always the best of the crop. They're showing a few of the best and then one terrible person to be laughed at, really, which is really not fair. You know what I mean? It's their selection that they're showing you. So, but it is a day of instant celebrity, as you say, people who do nothing and have no skill being quite well known, really. Not for long, though. It doesn't last very long.
Is that the key then to lasting, that you have to have a talent and you have to have something that you've worked hard to do and trained at and become good at?
Yes, you have to. That's right, and have a lot of variety, little corners to turn and little tricks to twist things round to make them look different, so that they're a little bit refreshed every now and again. Not treading the same furrow all your life.
What about your parents? How proud were they when you got on the Frost Report and you got these first professional gigs that led on to the greatness that you've achieved since?
Well, I'm pleased to say my mum and my dad were still alive, which is a terrific bonus. I mean, when I opened at the Palladium on my own, because of course the other thing about Ron and I, we did a lot of things separately and a lot together, but Ron was not interested in doing say a pantomime at the Palladium. To be honest, at that stage, I don't think I was interested in playing the Ugly Sisters with Ron, because we didn't want to. We wanted to have half of our year separate and half of our year together. And then I played Buttons at the Palladium, and with Clodagh Rogers, Julian Orchard, Terry Scott, David Kossoff. A lot of them are gone now. Clodagh still with us and doing well. My mum and dad came to the first night, so they saw it. And that's always rather nice, isn't it, when you're down, and they saw the first decent house we bought and everything. So he knew I was all right before he went, I think, really.
And that must be a great thrill for you, knowing that he knew that.
Yes, that's right. It was lovely.
What about the Palladium? I mean, is there any greater thrill in terms of a place to perform?
No, I don't. I think the Palladium, of course, has a very special place in my life, and most performers' lives, I suppose, in vaudeville people, because when we were starting off, I mean, you could always show your card and get a free ticket for a matinee at the Palladium. In the terrific days when Val Parnell ran the Palladium and the American top of the bills came, the Hopes, the Bennies, the Danny Kays, the Martin Lewises, the Mickey Rooneys, the Jackie Gleasons, and one saw them all. And you see, even those days when Bob Hope came up and Benny, they had a variety show in the first half, and Danny Kaye as well, and the second half they would do an hour, but they'd have people from their company pop on. Phil Harris would come on and chat to Bob Hope, and they'd do little shticks, but nobody was on forever, I mean, in the best days of Variety, when Variety Bills were touring the Moss Empires, the Max Millers and the Max Walls, that type of top of the bill, would only do 22 minutes. The first spot comic, 7 minutes, actually. And if you went to 9, there was a knock on your door saying, take these 2 minutes out. 7 minutes, you paid for it, 7 minutes, what we want. Because they were doing twice nightly, and it had to run to time, you see. So Max Miller would do 22 minutes twice nightly, and that's not as bad as doing an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours Ken Dodd has done since, you know what I mean? But the Palladium was... When I saw, Bob Hope, who was, of course, this fantastic giant of a jokesmith and big film star, when I went to see him at the Palladium, and the music plays, dee, 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 and going for dee, 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 dee. Still no Bob Hope. Da 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 dee 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 dee. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bob Hope. Dee dee, and the miles of music, the confidence he walked on with, and I thought, my God, it's just, is he real? It was because he'd been a huge film star, to me. They were great days, really. Wolf Phillips Band, Palladium, terrific.
Who have you worked with who's impressed you the most?
Let me see. Well, I met Bob Hope. That was fairly exciting. David Frost was going to interview Bob Hope in the period when he was doing Frost on Friday, Frost on Saturday, Frost on Sunday. And I rang up David and I said, I'd like to be in the audience when you interview Bob Hope. And, I'll get a ticket for him. And it was done at Wembley. And I was walking along the corridor. I'd come out of the gents, actually, in the corridor at Wembley. I walked along the corridor. Who can come out the room in front of me? Bob Hope. He said, my God, your name is... He said, I watched you last night on the television doing a cute little bit. This was no, that's me over here with Bing, he said, in Tom Jones' dressing room. I thought, that's not a bad trio to be watching. And he said, how old are you? I said, I'm 27 or 20. Well, very good, Ronnie. Nice to meet you. And then I went and sat in the audience, and he did all Mickey Rooney jokes about Ronnie Corbett because he'd seen a little gap talking about a short comic, and that was pretty impressive. Who have I? And then he introduced me subsequently at a charity thing in Grosvenor House. Who I met Crosby as well, and. Dalmahoy in Edinburgh when he turned up for a golf tournament. Who would be they're pretty impressive. Can't help but being impressed by these sort of presences,
The Alex Belfield In Conversation podcast.
My special guest today is the author of a brand new book called It's Good Night from Him, and the book is the story of the two Ronnies. Ronnie Corbett joins us today for an exclusive hour-long programme. We were talking before about your time at the Palladium and the people you get to meet. Presumably that is one of the big bonuses of being in show business, that you get to meet your heroes.
Yes, and of course Hope had been a hero like Danny Kaye, but Hope I had watched throughout my childhood, and not only a jokesmith but an attractive, charming persona he exuded, and a lovely dancer. He sang beautifully, in the way that Fred Astaire and Tormé, these sort of people using a song, and Hope would sing. And when I've got on tape on DVD at home, I watch it maybe within a month ago, Jimmy Cagney and Bob Hope, Seven Little Boys, doing a tap dance on the table. Well, unbelievably good. Cagney was a fabulous tap dancer with the peculiar stiff-legged action he had. And I watched them, and I can watch it over and over again. Hope is good, but not quite the little élan that Cagney has as a dancer. So they were great times.
I don't know whether you agree. It seems to me that Bob Monkhouse was Bob Hope's nearest comparison in terms of his class on stage and his material that he used.
Yes, and Bob was a great wordsmith. Fantastic. Yes, he was really, with Doddy about new material and learning and of course he was a very clever writer as well. He could write a lot of his own, which is a very brave thing to do. It's hard enough to pick, if somebody sends you 4 pages, to pick the best 10 jokes from 4 pages. It's hard enough to back your judgment without having to write the stuff and back your own judgment. That is really hard.